Hey guys, I know I've talked about this once before, but I want to do a little rerun on this because this guy's back at it and you got to see this.
Buying a house, worst investment you'll ever make in your entire life. Tell me more about that. It's one of the worst investments in the history of mankind. Yeah. Well, why is it a bad investment? Because what happens in a house is, first of all, if you just do the math, average house here is $576. So $576 is what you pay. Now you need 12% for broker fees. You need another, let's say you keep the house 10 years. You need 10% in maintenance fees. It's 1% a year in maintenance fees. It's about 2% in property taxes every year. That's 20%. 2 times 10 is 20. And it's probably 7% to the bank, so that's 70%. Total those up is 112%. So $576,000 home will have to be sold for $1.2 million in 10 years. You're not going to sell it for that. But the banks are going to tell you it's good. Why? Because the Bank of America made 70% on your deal.
Okay, so that's just one side of the equation. Now I'm going to get into just correcting the record here, but I want to show you this because he follows it up with this.
End of every year, I dump all my cash out every year. I'm like, you need to get as close to zero as you can and replace it with assets. So I took a bunch of this cash that was sitting here, just deteriorating, not providing me with safety, and took it and put it into this asset. And people are like, you're ridiculous. Okay, we'll see, It's just the thing that I do. End of the year, dump out. Literally like flush the toilet on your savings. I know for sure the money's going down in value. Everybody knows that this year. Your money is depreciating, right? It's dropping down in value. What you were told that is 100 grand is not 100 grand. The bank's not even telling you the truth. It's 100 less 11,000. Could be 34% less. Some people think it's going down 34%. But you're going to still see 100 because this is invisible taxing, right? It's inflation. So I know that. I know it's not 100. So when you guys look at your check, I got 180,000. You're lying to yourself because you're not doing all the math on money. This is why I'm buying assets that can provide you with more cash, with more income.
Okay, so at the end of the day, that one has some truth to it. But you see, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. First video, he says don't buy a home. Second video, he's saying don't keep your money in cash. Buy assets, which for him only means apartment buildings, which for him means income as rent, which is why he's hoping you don't buy a house because that means more renters out there. See? So let's get into his first video. He uses the price of a house of $576,000. He lives in Miami. Maybe that's the average price in Miami. It's not the average price in most of the world. Definitely not the average price where I live. About $350 is the average price here. But just because it's the average doesn't mean there's not homes out there that cost $200,000. My home cost $289,000 in 2014. Today it's 2023. 9 years later, I wouldn't sell this place for $750 grand. I'd sell it for $8, but not $750. So you can do the math at 289 to 750, 9 years later. He uses the example of 10 years and says it won't double. I'm sorry, I believe it will double in 10 years. And so that's his first lie, is the price you have to pay for a house. You don't have to pay $500,000 for a house. Secondly, he says you need a 12% broker fee. I'm a real estate agent. I have never charged 12% in my life, not even on a $100,000 property. The lower the price of the property, the higher the commission percentage. So here locally in central Indiana, if you're over $500,000, you're about 5%. That's 2.5 to the listing agent and 2.5 to the buyer's agent. So that's a total of 5%. If you go to, you only need to pay that if you're going to sell the place. If you're just living in it, if you're just buying it to get it paid off and have a free rent-free place to live, that's all you have to pay. Then he says 10% maintenance, basically 1% maintenance a year. He may not be far off on that. If you had a $500,000 house, spending $5 grand a year on maintenance, I don't think I have $5 grand a year going bad, but if I had to replace a furnace and air conditioner, that'd be about 10 grand. So that, or if you need a roof, if you had some big ticket items, it could average out to 10% over the course of 10 years, which is 1% per year. So I'll give him that. Let's say he's safe on 1% per year on average, but you're not going to spend that much on average maintaining your property unless you have some sort of big ass home like he does, which probably he has maids and chefs and all. He probably counts all that towards his maintenance fee on his house. Lastly, he talks about property tax, and he says property tax is 2% of the value. That's a damn lie. If you own your home and you live in that home, it's 1%. It's 1%. 2% is if you're using it as a rental. So see how he skews? He skews the numbers to try to make it in his favor. He's a liar. He's lying to get more people to rent so he don't have near the vacancies in his thousands upon thousands of apartments that he has. That's what he needs. Granted, I'm a realtor. I want to sell homes, so I have a vested interest in talking people into buying homes as well. But I'm not going to be a realtor for very much longer. I'm going to retire from this career as well. This is the advice I would give anybody. I'm only selling homes to the people I sell homes to. If you live in another state, another city, I'm not going to sell you a home. I don't have a vested interest in you buying a home. I'm telling you the truth. It's the smartest thing you can do. He's making the assumption that you want to be some multimillionaire like him, having private jets and all these crazy wealth. I want you to be a multimillionaire. I do. I want you to be the most financially free you can be. And I believe in my heart, the best way you can be financially free is to get out of debt and not be paying rent. So here's another thing that he doesn't. Notice all the expenses that he's taken into account on telling you why not to buy a house. What doesn't he mention? What he doesn't mention is that if you don't own a home, you're paying rent. And guess what? Rent is 100% interest. All of that money is gone. You'll never see a dime of that again. You're not getting $1 worth of your rent back. So he's not taking that into account. He's lying on the numbers. He's inflating all of the costs of owning a house. He's not factoring in the money you save not paying rent. Your mortgage payment takes place of the rent, right? He's not factoring that in. Do you not see the deceit there? It's criminal what he's doing. Then he goes on to make another video that he's not talking about not buying a house, and he talks about getting rid of his cash and putting it in an asset, right? Let me back up again. But before we get into that, let me back up again. When we're talking about the rent versus a mortgage payment, the whole idea with buying a house is to eventually have it paid for where you have no payment at all, right? You'll never get there if you don't ever buy a house. If you follow his advice, you're going to be 80 years old and still paying rent out of a Social Security check. So you'll never get to being debt free. And that's the big issue with what he's preaching and not buying a house. I think it's just the most criminal thing the guy does. I think it's horrible. I think he has a lot of great advice. I've met this man in person before. I believe he has good intentions, but on this, he's doing whatever helps him. And he's hurting a lot of people in the process. There's a lot of people teetering what should they do, and they're listening to experts on both sides, and they look at this guy and think, well, he's a multimillionaire. Why wouldn't I listen to him? You wouldn't listen to him because he has a vested interest in making sure he has renters. He has apartments all over the country, thousands upon thousands of units, and I'm sure thousands of them are empty. So he needs more renters. It's the only way he can keep his business afloat is by ensuring he has more renters. It's what he's doing. So, and again, for me, I'm not talking to you as a realtor. I'm talking to you as someone who bought a home, whose home is worth way more money than he paid for it. This is my second home that I've ever bought for me personally. I have multiple homes. I have rentals too. I have rental units that would help me if more people were renting. I don't have vacancies, but I have rentals. But I don't want, I'm not out to what's going to help me. I'm out for what is the truth. And the truth is that owning a home is a wonderful thing to do for your future financial health. Because the goal is to buy it, get it paid down as quick as you can, and own it with no payment. It's a glorious place to be, to know that you have a place to live and nobody can take it from you. That's the beauty of owning a home, where if you rent, You're at the mercy of a landlord all the time, and you never know financial freedom. And I think it's criminal. Now, back to the second video where he's talking about inflation and getting rid of cash because of inflation. And it's true. That part is true. If you have $100,000 with inflation next year, it's probably going to only have the buying power of about $90,000. But today, if you have $100,000 in your account, it will buy $100,000 worth of goods at today's prices. I'm with him that if you just sit on that and you don't do anything with it, and in 10 years you look at your 100,000, yeah, it's not going to do as much as it could. So, but what about taking it and putting it towards a house? He's talking about buying assets. He's talking about assets that go up. As his apartment buildings go up in value, so do houses go up in value. So under the same premise that he's telling you don't do it, why would he still buy a building instead of keeping it in cash? Why would he buy an apartment building? Because that apartment building is going to go up in value. Yes, it's also going to provide him rent income, which your home is not. But it is in a sense, because if you own that home, you're not paying rent. So in essence, that is income. When you pay a payment, your first few, of course, most of it goes to interest, but some does go to paying the principal down. And so the value is going up as you pay the value down, as you pay the balance down, and eventually you find that sweet spot where the value is way higher than you paid for it and you owe nothing on it. And that means you have a rent-free, mortgage-free life. And who out there doesn't think that is glorious? Who out there would not want to own a home and not have a payment on it? Who? I don't know anybody. Even him. But you know what? Everything he owns is mortgaged because they work off debt. And when you're rich like that, you can buy something that's worth $1 million, do some repairs, fix it up, make it nicer. Now it's worth $2 million. You can get a loan for that additional $1 million. And when you get that loan as $1 million, guess what you don't pay on that $1 million? Taxes. When you borrow money, it's tax-free. That's how rich people avoid paying taxes, is by borrowing money and living off that borrowed money. And then they pay back interest, but paying 6 or 7% interest is way cheaper than paying 30 or 40% tax. So that's the secret of wealthy people and how they operate and how they keep their taxes so low, and how the rich get richer, because as they buy more and they accumulate more, they're buying assets which are going up in value. So I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you could see through the lies of these people telling you not to do it. I'm telling you it's the right thing to do. I wouldn't trade my position with him any day of the week. He has more money than me, but he has a lot more responsibility than me. I have a lot more freedom than he does. I have nothing like that to manage. I don't have to get out here and do podcasts and go travel and convince people of lies. I do this because I want to give back. I don't make a dime from this. I want to give back to people and help them understand the truth so that you can see through all these damn lies that are out there. So I hope you appreciate it. I'm sorry to repeat a topic, but this was important. I think it's worth repeating because you need to see this again. You need to see it in deeper detail. I'll talk to you tomorrow.